if you don't have sustainable interior structures, you're not going to have sustainable exterior structures. And so an argument can be made that since famine occurs only in countries that don't have representative democracies in their legal consciousness, and that legal consciousness is a structure that starts at moral stage 5, and the only thing that's been demonstrated to move adult human beings vertically through these stages is meditation. And about the single most important thing you can do to cure famine is get people meditating. So, a little bit of a roundabout way to talk about some of these things, but they are all hooked together. And it's another good example of whenever you just go into any field you want, whether it's law or science or art or history or business or psychotherapy, and find the recalcitrant problems that have been around for decades, and you're going to find ways to put them together, and you're going to have a really, really important piece of information. That's sort of the rule of thumb of the integral age that we're coming into. Now, it doesn't mean it's just a mush flatland. It's just everybody sits on the table and we're all friends and isn't that great, and whales are people too, and although that's actually insulting whales, some people I know, but it's not just a flatland like that. You can make judgments, very, very strong judgments. World-centric is better than ethnocentric. Ethnocentric is better than egocentric. And world-centric is better than fascism and so on. Now, these might seem simple, but they're fundamentally issues that often get denied. That you just can't make any judgments at all. So you're making judgments that basically says the greater the depth, the better. The more the number of perspectives that I can include, the better, in my judgment. Even in my emotions, Carol Gilligan's study of female moral development, it was still egocentric, ethnocentric, world-centric. Her stages were what she called selfish, egocentric. Then the next stage is called care. You can care for somebody else, that's ethnocentric. And then her highest stage was universal care, world-centric. Now she's added a fourth stage, integrated. And what all of these again have in common, we talked a little bit about it earlier, is increasing the number of perspectives, increasing the amount of consciousness that you have. Because it's not just a cognitive thing. It increases the amount of love that you have. From people say, well, all the world needs is love. And I go, what kind? I mean, egocentric love? Ethnocentric love? Nazis love their families. So we want to go from a love that's merely a love for me to a love that's also a love for you, to a love that's also a love for all of us and all sentient beings. That's a consciousness thing. That's those structures of consciousness. And one of the sort of really good news items, if you are involved in a genuine meditative practice, and certainly in integral forms of that, is you're increased in the likelihood that your structures of consciousness, your stages of consciousness, are going to expand, to increase the number of sentient beings that you can hold in your mind and in your heart. And that's not only sort of a nice sounding thing, it also means the less suffering you have. Because suffering is defined as running into an other, like a bathroom door. Pow. If you are, there's nothing outside of you to run into you, then there is no suffering. Now, hurt can arise, but you're not identified with it. And so it's not only that you're increasing the number of perspectives that you're taking, you're decreasing the amount of suffering. And that's sort of one of the claims of the great contemplative traditions, is that as you increase your consciousness, you decrease your suffering, not your pain. Suffering is pain plus avoidance. So you are, as we say, it's sort of you actually become more sensitive to pain. So it hurts more, but bothers you less. So that's sort of just some of these ways that Melissa to start thinking about bringing these different areas together and having them basically share in a more integral approach. And this is, I didn't mean to kind of sort of get lectury on this, but I really feel strongly that it's an extraordinarily important endeavor, and it's something that you can do by simply finding those tension spots and then finding ways of taking both sides and finding what element of truth is there. And not just in an absolute sense, where everything, just as it is suchness, but that it contributes a relative truth that's really important. And that's why we say that basically there has to be a way for making room for everything, finding a place for everything in your life. And that's one of the things that we recommend in an integral approach. And you can even fill in the pieces any way you want. And it's also, if you are interested in this kind of thing, then come help us at Integral Institute. If you want to do genuine practices, study with some of the truly realized teachers like Rinpoche. And same goes for contemplative Christianity and Kabbalah, Hasidim, any of the great traditions that we have. It's a new era. I mean, it truly is. We've finally gotten, after the extraordinary sort of cantankerous breakthroughs of the 60s, where we just took every culture the world over and cracked those eggs and made it into an omelet. We're actually standing back now, and for the first time in history, we know everything that we know. It's just never happened before that we have all the cultures sitting there right in front of us. And us basically having a chance to look at the sum total of what men and women have seen when they attempted to understand themselves and their world. And two of the really extraordinary breakthroughs, as we were saying, and there were many, many, many more. Please don't get too politically correct on this. But one of the most extraordinary discoveries was a very small country in the northern Himalayas, where a group of people basically sat in caves and looked at their minds for a millennium. That's never happened before, not like that. And the treasure trove of wisdom that came out of that country is simply astonishing. It's not to belittle any other traditions. It's simply to say that this is the likes of this experiment, and it was an experiment, was amazing, and focused it really on that one area. Many other areas of culture they just set aside. But that one area, it just unbelievable. They drilled right down to the center of what we are.